everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
We're into December now, the playoffs are rapidly approaching, and the final group of teams are having their bye weeks this week as well, so the tension is rising in the NFL. This is the Full 10 Yards NFL Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Moores, and today we have another fun episode for you. We saw a huge Thursday night game last night with mega playoff implications, so that'll be on the agenda, of course. Also, we've done our award predictions this year. We've done a QB ranking, we've done power rankings, the next set of which are coming very, very soon. Up next today, we've got something different. We're going to be naming our all-pro team of our best offensive and defensive players of the season so far. Join me to do that and pick the rest of the Week 14 slate, because we had one hell of a start to Week 14. It's going to be a fun week because it's just hitting that time of the year now. Yeah, we're going to pick the rest of the Week 14 slate against the spread. It is the one and only author and obviously senior US sports writer for the Mirror and the Express, Andrew Gamble. Welcome back onto the pod, mate. You came on a few weeks ago. How have you been doing in that time?
Yeah, I've been doing well, thanks, mate. Nice to see nice to come back on the show, of course. Thanks for having me back. And it's been awesome seeing the season unfold. And now we're getting excited for as you kind of said in the intro there, we're getting down the stretch. It always feels like the NFL season goes so quickly. I feel like the off season is so slow, and you're like waiting for it all to come. And then in a blink of an eye, it's Thanksgiving, and there's like 6 weeks left. And then obviously, you can argue that's where the fun really begins. But it's been a great season. It'll be fun to see how it unfolded. I mean, we saw last night, like you said, big playoff implications are coming now with kind of not just every week, but every passing game now, I think, for every team. So it's going to be fantastic to see it all play out.
Yeah, I had that realization last week when I was watching the games. I live with a couple other journalism students and people who contribute for our site, and I was just watching the games, and I was like, we've only got like 4 or 5 red zones left, and I was like, well, the season just goes so quickly. We'll be before we know it, we'll be in the playoffs, and then that's it till September again. It just goes so quickly, but it's why it's so great, because there are a limited number of games, and it gets you excited for each game, and that's why they're an event. And obviously there was a big event last night. There's only one place to start, and that is in Detroit, where the Lions moved to 12-1 on the year after the 11th straight victory, a 34-31 win over the Green Bay Packers. I mean, one hell of a game, this one, between two fierce rivals. Probably the best rivalry in the NFL right now, I'd say. And it came right down to the wire. With a tied game at 31 apiece, the Lions put on a masterclass in clock management to get into a position for Jake Bates to kick a game-winning field goal. They had over 3.5 minutes to get in that field goal range. They got into Green Bay territory very quickly, within about a minute. And they forced the Packers to burn the timeouts. They ran down their throat. Some really cool creative plays, including a big 2nd and 17 pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And that set them up with a 4th and 1 with 43 seconds to go. They could have kicked an easy field goal. But Dan Campbell didn't want to give the ball back to Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love, because on the previous 5 drives, they'd scored 4 touchdowns and a field goal. The Packers were hot, and I mean, it's aggressive, but they decided to go for it. Jared Goff even slipped on, he sort of tripped over his offensive lineman, handing the ball off to David Montgomery, but Montgomery slipped through and gained a first down to take the clock down to 2 seconds, where obviously Jake Bates kicked the game-winning field goal for the Lions. A ballsy call. It's a ballsy night for Dan Campbell, but that's their identity. They went for it on 4th down 5 times, 4 conversions. They scored 17 points on those drives. It's what they do, and it's why the Lions are so good at it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, it's funny because it's like they went for it 4 out of 5 times. The one time they didn't make it was on their own 30, right? And it gave the Packers points. So, yeah, look, you live by Dan Campbell, you die by Dan Campbell. But they're currently living and they're thriving, and it was awesome because that's really them steering into their identity, and delivering on what we not just what we think the Lions are, but what the Lions actually are. They're a physical team. They go for it. We saw that last year in the NFC Championship where they perhaps made some fourth down calls that maybe people, obviously hindsight 2020, but people at the time were kind of freaking out. But we've kind of grown to realize that this is how Dan Campbell plays football, and this is how he's going to keep playing football. And at the moment, it's working for the Lions. It was a great game. Two teams we saw, but even before the game, it was getting a bit fiery. I think Matt LaFleur clashed with a Lions fan who I think was meant to be waving the flag at the anthem. I saw Terry and Arnold and Tucker Kraft getting into it as well before the game. So, like you said, it's up there. Certainly is one of the best rivalries in the NFL. Two great teams, with two great records going into that game. That's what you want to see in these primetime games. And we saw a real kind of thriller play out. I think it was a bit slow really at the start. I think the Packers took some time to get going. The Lions, started as well as ever. But yeah, they let Green Bay get back into the game, and went right down to the wire. That final drive was awesome to watch. The Jared Goff slip, I think. I'm not even a Lions fan. My heart was in my mouth when I saw him go down there. Just fantastic. It's the Lions have a real identity, and they're using it to get victories.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. I was watching it at 4 a.m. this morning. Obviously, in America, you didn't have that luxury covering the game last night. But I was there, half asleep watching it. I'm like, tell you what, that if he did slip and if the Packers did go on to win, then that's a moment you'll remember for a long time, because it could have big implications for the 1 seed, because Philly are right behind the Lions now. Yeah, they really, really are, and it does now. This win put pressure on the Eagles, because the Lions just know how to win. Obviously, 11 straight wins now. It's going to be fascinating to who does get the 1 seed, because the Lions have the toughest schedule, I'd say. They got Buffalo in Detroit next week. They got division games against the Bears and the Vikings. Again, division games, no slouch. Both of those teams played the Lions really close in the previous matchups. And then NFC Championship rematch against the Niners in San Francisco. Who knows who might be back for them at that point as well. Yeah, there are tough games for the Lions, but they can't really afford to slip up. But I also, I can't see them losing, which is crazy. And that's the thing. That's the way. That's how good of a job Dan Campbell's doing. And it's nice after years of the AFC's dominance, where the playoffs have been all about the AFC, and it's all been about, it's so nice to see so many good teams in that NFC, I think, because, Green Bay are no slouch either. Philly are, they're going to be one hell of a wildcard team. Philly are really good. And then you've got some, frisky teams that I feel like could beat quite a few teams as well below them, in those teams in that mix as well. It's so nice to see this NFC after years of, being the inferior conference.
Yeah, I think so. And it's interesting as well, because the Lions, obviously they get this win yesterday to kind of keep hold of the number 1 seed, kind of stave off Philly for now. But I don't know. I feel like it was a really weird game in terms of how I feel about the Lions kind of going forward, because it's they have so many injuries at the moment on defense. I almost feel bad. I do feel bad. Lions, you don't want to see injuries in the NFL. I think they've got double-digit guys on IR just on defense alone, and their pass rushers. They traded for Darius Smith. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson went down when he was kind of formulating this DPOY push, and so their pass rush was kind of non-existent last night. And you just worry they gave up. I think they kept the Packers to inside 300 yards, or kept Jordan Love to inside 300 yards, but they still put up 31 points. So I think, in that regard, in that kind of line of thinking, I'm thinking the Lions can be in trouble come the playoffs, really, because it's any given Sunday, right? Even if the Lions are the best team on paper, even if they're the best team on form, if you've got that many injuries, you're going to struggle in these big games. But on the flip side, they still stuck to their identity and they still got the win against a really good team. So I don't know. It's funny because it could go either way for them, and I think that's why it would be really sad to see this Lions season get derailed by injuries. But we're starting to see more and more bodies go up, but they're still winning. And coming back to your point on the NFC, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's great to see the Lions. Great to see, because the Packers are a great team. They were actually one of my kind of sleeper picks to make the Super Bowl at the start of the year. I don't think Jordan Love is playing at that quite that higher level just yet. But look, the Packers are a great team. I think great young team as well. I think the NFC had that little blip, as you said, over the last few years, and they've kind of all started to grow in. They've all started to get their young pieces in place, and everything's starting to play out for them. So now we've got the Lions, Eagles, and Packers. But I mean, even the Vikings, where the Vikings are now a sneaky team that could still clinch the NFC North, which would be ludicrous because it's the Lions' best year ever, and it's the Vikings' freaking what is it? It's their like a rebuild year. It's a rebuild year for the Vikings, right? So it's just unbelievable. What a season!
Yeah, so if the Vikings win that game, last game of the season, then all hell could break loose in the NFC standings. So yeah, I'm really, really high on Green Bay. Despite losing this, I'm really impressed by them still. I think what Matt LaFleur is doing with the run game is amazing. Like I feel like you're seeing a lot of defenses adjust to the Shanahan style offenses. So the Niners, the Rams, the Dolphins, they're not even they've all had really bad injury problems this year, but even when healthy, they're not looking the same. Green Bay are the only team from that tree. I mean, you could say perhaps Tampa Bay with Lee and Cohn. But there are very few iterations of the offense that are working the way they have done previously this year. Green Bay are the exception because their run game is brilliant. LaFleur and Jacobs having that combination is great, and then what that does do is then help Jordan Love. It makes Love better. The last couple of weeks he has been better, and I still think they are really strong pick for the Super Bowl. I think they are the third best team in the NFC, really close behind Philadelphia. I think any one of those three teams could win the Super Bowl, if I'm being honest. That second half was great, the way they adjusted to after Detroit had their way a little bit on defense, and then they lost too many guys because they did lose quite a few guys last night as well. And then the second half, it's like the reverse of their game last Thursday night. The second half, the Packers were so good on offense, and I really just love watching them in the red zone as well. They're probably the most creative offense in the NFL right now, the Packers. And I mean, equally fair play to the Lions defense. Missing that many players, as you mentioned, they had an amazing first half. They lost both their defensive tackles. DJ Reader didn't start the game. Then Ali McNeil out for a concussion. Those two guys will play again this season. They're the two most important guys on that defensive line. Now that Aiden Hutchinson's gone, they might come back later in the playoff push if they do have a deep run. But no, so that as long as those two guys are there, but without them, second half they were really vulnerable. So yeah, I agree. I do worry about that going into the playoffs, but right now they are just operating fine, very well coached. Secured a playoff berth with a win last night too. As I mentioned, franchise record 11 straight wins. On this same day 3 years ago, they won to in the first game of the season to go 1-10-1. 3 years later, they're 12-1. It just does show how good of a job Dan Campbell has done. I think for me, he is probably the major contender for Coach of the Year, especially if they lose 2-3 games. I think, and with everything they've gone through as well, I think that him and Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn have had such a good season coaching wise. And I think already had a good offensive line in place when Campbell wasn't here. Then he got here, they made it better. They found a leader and a coach in him. Then they built up from that, and now that is a blueprint of how you build an NFL team, because there's some rebuilds in a similar timeline that just have not turned out at all. Before we get on to picking our all-pro teams, anything you wanted to add on this game?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, just coming back to your point about talking about the how defenses are adjusting to kind of these evolving offenses. It's interesting as well because it's such a, especially we see it with sport, right? Like it's such a cycle. We see it with our football, in the Premier League or European soccer. You see it with the NFL, right? Tactics 4-4-2 comes back. You know what I mean? Like different schemes they come back. So now we're seeing the kind of the return of really dominant run game. Like you look at all the good teams in the NFL this year, they all have a great run game. And that's no surprise. Just to kind of piggyback over what you're saying. You see, Dan Campbell came in. He wanted to pound the rock, right? He gets David Montgomery, drafts Jahmyr Gibbs, and then we see Jim Harbaugh coming in with the Chargers, and gets rid of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, takes away playmakers on in the receiving, and goes after J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards in free agency. And so it's just so we're seeing this return, kind of away almost from such a pass dominant game, which is funny because all the rules are kind of tailored for the passing game to thrive. But like you say, because defenses aware of that because they are trying to combat kind of that style of offense. We're seeing the return of running backs, which is awesome, and real football. if you want to use that, but no, it's good to watch. It's good to see that kind of offense come back in.
Yeah, and teams have worked out that the way you preserve a running back and keep them healthy and keep their careers long and keep them most effective is by having a tandem, two very different guys. And you look at Detroit, you look at Washington, you look at all these. That's how you get the most out of a run game, and that's how you establish a successful run game. You have multiple running backs, and a 1A, 1B, but you need to make sure that 1A is protected because they need to be able to make a play any minute, and both of the Lions guys can do that.
Sure.
Yeah, and they both made key plays across the night. Okay, let's now turn attention to our 22 all-pro players of the season so far, our combined team of the season. As he is the guest, I let Andrew pick the offense. I'm going to be doing the defense. And as always with the NFL, we're going to start the offense first. So, Andrew, many players to go for at quarterback. Obviously, a lot of guys in the MVP discussion. Jared Goff, one of them. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Who is your quarterback in your team in the season so far?
Well, I mean, those are the three guys that I kind of immediately wrote out when you sent me this. They're the guys that immediately spring to mind. I love Jared Goff a lot, probably more than most, to be honest, even before this season. But I can't have him over Lamar or Josh Allen, unfortunately, this season. So it's really between those two guys. I could really go either way with it. I'm going to go Lamar. At the moment, I just think the way he plays, it's difficult because I can't even really make an argument over one or the other. I think they're both so amazing, and they both Lamar. There's that kind of wasted discourse that he can't throw the ball as well as some of his counterparts, but we've seen that this year that he is slinging it again. He's evading and running as well as ever. To be honest, he feels more settled this year. He doesn't feel like he needs to escape and use his legs so much. He feels much more poised in the pocket. And I just think the tandem, like we've been talking about, the tandem with Derrick Henry has really boosted the Ravens offense. Not just in the run game, because now the defenders they plug the box trying to stop the run game, or the threat of the run game anyway. So just a beautiful addition to get Derrick Henry. Needs a flying around. But Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson is my pick at quarterback.
Yeah, again, I probably just lean Lamar as well. I think he's been the best passer of the football this year, which many people didn't think he would be able to do. And, it's because a lot of haters wrong. I mean, I think their issue in a lot of losses actually has been Justin Tucker. I had a tweet last week. I was like, I think they've lost two or three of their 4 or 5 games just purely because of missed kicks from Justin Tucker. Their defense has been a little bit leaky, but they've scored enough points in offense. They've been so good in offense that they've been able to win all these games, and they should have won more games. I think, I think if I was to guess, it'd be Allen because he's in more MVP moments down the stretch. That kind of. Like the KC game, the catch from Amari Cooper last week.
Yeah.
But I feel like the best quarterback has been Lamar Jackson, so I completely agree with you. Okay, so we'll go over to the skill position players now. It'd be 1 running back, 2 receivers, a tight end, and then an extra running back, receiver, or tight end, whichever one you feel like is deserving of that final skill position spot. We'll start with your running backs. Do you have 1 or 2, and how have you picked these guys?
Yeah, I went with 2 running backs. We got Saquon Barkley at number 1 for sure. I think he's kind of probably the only non-quarterback, certainly on offense, that I think is in the MVP discussion. So I don't know if you have to make much more of an argument. I think he is RB. I think he's RB1, at least for now. And I think I went with 2 running backs. I think we got to go. It was tough. I mean, it was tough. I'll come back to that actually in a little bit because I was going to wait. I'll run you through my thinking before I say.
All right. Nice. No, so I mean Saquon Barkley, like, yeah, again, he for me, if neither the MVP, for example, typically comes from a 1 seed, whether it's AFC or NFC. The last team that the MVP did not come from a team that was also the 1 seed was in 2016 when it was Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
If the Eagles get the 1 seed, I think Saquon Barkley has got a seriously strong case for MVP. Same with Josh Allen if the Bills get the 1 seed, because I feel like that's what voters lean towards. He's been that good. Again, I feel like he has single-handedly won the Eagles a couple of games this season because they didn't start well. Again, we saw in the game last week, I think they had about 20 yards in the whole of the first quarter. They do not start games well. And then when defenses tire, they hit them with Saquon, and that's how they win games. Yeah. Obviously, Saquon Barkley, second half yards, he'd been one of the best rushers in the whole league this season, let alone first half Saquon. So yeah, he's been absolutely brilliant, and
he's had those highlight moments that you talked about with Josh Allen, right? Like he had that incredible game against the Packers in week 1. He had the game against the Rams, which is incredible. He did the hurdle is like the highlight of the season. And there have been some amazing catches this season, but the hurdle is probably one of the craziest things I've seen kind of on a pitch, but on an individual basis or on the field for years, quite frankly. It was unbelievable. So yeah, I think he's just having one of those, truly transcendent kind of seasons for his position.
Yeah, it's like the Odell catch. That's 10 years old now, and that's still remembered just as fondly as I feel like this. Obviously the hurdle from Saquon was, especially if the Eagles wearing the like Kelly Green throwbacks as well. It just looks perfect. That image does. Agreed. So it will certainly be remembered. Okay, 2 receivers. Who have you gone with?
I've gone with I put Jamar Chase as number 1. He was the one that kind of, as soon as I started thinking about it, he immediately sprung to mind. It's a shame if the Bengals had won a few of these 1-score games. I think they're 1-7 or something ludicrous in 1-score games this season. If they had won all of those, if it had flipped and they were 7-1, there's a chance Joe Burrow would be the quarterback and Jamar Chase would be this receiver. But I think Jamar Chase is still this receiver. You see the plays he makes. The number of times Burrow will just throw him a screen pass and then he will just evade 4 guys and burst off for a 60-yard touchdown is just insane. He is having a really an all-timer kind of season in terms of just pure playmaking ability. I think he's the best big play weapon in the NFL, and he does it on such a consistent basis. I think he's kind of got to be the wide receiver 1. In terms of the second guy, I think this is much more up for debate. There are a few kind of names I had that I chucked around. I finally went with Chase's LSU teammate. But I think Justin Jefferson. Yes, I think by his standards, you could argue maybe he's had a quieter season. He's still got over 1,000 yards, right? And then there's still 5 weeks to play. He's still got over 1,000 yards. And the Vikings are what? They're 9-2, 10-2. So they are, they still lean on him where needed. We saw that against 49ers, right? Like that was so early in the season, people kind of forgot about it. He scored the 97-yarder or 99-yarder win that game, or to help the Vikings win that game. So he still makes the big plays. We saw him talking about the other day about how, if the defense is fixated on me, it means Jordan Anderson and Jalen Naylor, they can all thrive. And that's what's happened. So I think if you take everything into account, I'm happy with the Justin Jefferson pick as this one, but I'm open to suggestions.
No, I was going to say, if I was to pick a receiving duo, it would be those 2, let alone how good they've been this season. Chase definitely gets on at this 100%. Again, he's one of the first names that I would have put on. Again, if the Bengals were good, he also, because it's not been a standout quarterback, he also could be in that conversation. As could Joe Burrow. Again, if their defense wasn't one of the worst in history, the way it's going now. It's just a shame because it's so nice. It's so fun watching the Bengals. It's why they're favoured in so many games. And they let every team down against the spread, or at least maybe not against the spread, but they lose so many 1-score games. It's not been a Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase problem. It's always been their defense. And Evan McPherson's missed a few kicks as well. Not quite Justin Tucker level, but he has still missed a few kicks.
He has missed a few though, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it could be a very different story. But I mean, those 2 guys are brilliant. I mean, you could potentially put like Amon-Ra St. Brown in there. I think he's for the level he's had. Nico Collins, if he hadn't got hurt, would be in this conversation as well. But I think I agree with you. Those are the 2 guys I would have gone for as well. Okay, tight end's an interesting one because normally it'd be like a slam dunk, Travis Kelce, George Kittle. yeah, this year is very, very open because there's been a lot of guys of similar level and one really impressive rookie as well.
Yeah, look, give me Brock Bowers. Give me Brock Bowers. I think he's just I have him in fantasy, so that's one. But I just think he's lived up to what we expected him to be and more. Like I think everyone expected, not everyone, but if you were high on him coming out of the draft, I think you'd have thought that he was going to be kind of an all-pro kind of caliber player. Certainly by the end of his rookie contract, maybe within the first 2 years, or 3 years if you're lucky. But there's a solid argument that the argument that I'm making that he's the best tight end in the league on current form. The Raiders don't have good quarterback play, and he is still putting up fantastic numbers. I think he leads the tight ends in. I think he leads in yards and maybe touchdowns as well. But he's just an unbelievable weapon. I think George Kittle's had a great season. We'll touch on him as well in a sec. But I think it's Brock Bowers. I think the tight ends this year. I think it's almost as if the whole kind of field of tight ends kind of went down a little bit this year because normally they've been such a prominent weapon on offense. Maybe not down, but you know what I mean. Like the production hasn't been quite as high in recent years. But I mean, yeah, just Brock Bowers, man. The Raiders he's an absolute stud, and that's something that it's been a tough season I think for the Raiders, but he has definitely been perhaps the only shining light from this season for them. It's just his incredible play.
Absolutely. I mean, he's going over 100 yards a lot of games, which again is harder to do for a tight end. He's getting like 14, 15 receptions a game. There's a chance he could break the rookie receptions record that Puka Nacua broke last year. Before that, it was Jalen Waddles. With there being more games, these records are going more often now. But I feel like he's having such a good season that record could maybe never be broken again because he's getting so many balls thrown at him. It's certainly really, really impressive. And I agree with you. I think when the other tight ends are aging, and then you've got people like sort of Tucker Kraft for the Packers in there, and Trey McBride. They're great team players. They're great in their offense, but I feel like there's no one more valuable to their offense in terms of pushing the ball downfield rather than schematically than Brock Bowers right now. Okay, we'll go to your final skill position player before we get onto the offensive line. Yeah. Who are you thinking of for this one?
So I wanted to when I was planning for this, I took one guy from each of the positions, the next kind of guy up to see who would kind of sneak in. So for that was for tight end was George Kittle. I just think the 49ers offense obviously hasn't been great this season. He has been great though. I think he has kind of rediscovered his best form. I think certainly over the last 2 years, I think because of how good the 49ers or how deep they are on offense, how many skill position players they have that are effective, I think his role kind of shrunk a little bit. He was obviously okay with that. He's a great team player. There's nothing wrong with that by any means. But we've seen that come to the fore again this season. He's been a real red zone target for them. He leads the league in touchdowns actually for tight ends with 8. So I think he's the one that would be the next guy up for tight end for me. Wide receiver was an interesting one. Again, I wanted to go a bit more fun with it because I'm so sad Nico Collins got injured. Because he for me, when I'm looking at all these charts and stats and whatever, I'm thinking if there's a wide receiver that I would have sneak in, the difference he makes to that Texans team is insane. What he was putting up at the start of the season was remarkable. Even with the likes of Stephon Diggs and stuff in that lineup with him, he was still standing out as the clear kind of big weapon on offense for the Texans. And we've seen how much it's affected them since he got injured. And then running back, Derrick Henry. I mean, the addition of him for the Ravens was inspired, really. How the rest of the league let that kind of happen, because it's kind of like, who would you want to pair Derrick Henry with most in the NFL? The answer is Lamar Jackson. So, or maybe it would have been Philly, actually. That would have been fun as well. But either one was
yeah.
So,
no, I think that was the destination we were all hoping for.
Yeah.
This when he was a free agent, that was a definition we were all hoping for. And he's made Lamar better because now having two guys behind the line of scrimmage to defend is making both guys better. Derrick Henry, I mean, less so much after last week, but he was on pace to have, he's close to 2,000 yards projected this season. Again, he could get like 15, 16 touchdowns, not quite like 20 touchdowns, or 18, 19. But again, he's on for one of his best seasons ever, probably second best season ever. In his 30s as well, which is even more impressive. If I was you, I'd go for him. But obviously,
I'm going for Derrick Henry. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's absolutely. I mean, it has to be Derrick Henry. He's in the offensive player of the year discussion. He's as you say, projected for near 2,000 yards. It's. I mean, to be fair, it's actually unbelievable that when you think back on it, on how there was all this discourse about running backs getting paid and Barkley and Henry both hitting free agency. Some questions lingering over their productivity going forward, and how much value you could get out of them. And they're both the All Pros here. I think they're going to be. I don't see how they're not both the All Pros when it comes out at the end of the year, because it's unbelievable what they're doing. So he's definitely big.
This is the best year for rushing the football since the early noughties. Last time I checked, it's the first time that I think it's the most rushing yards. No, sorry, the fewest passing yards per game since 2006 or something stupid like that. That's the last time I checked. Again, that could have changed, but I think 3 or 4 weeks ago that was the case, and I can't see it changing much because of how dominant some teams have been on the ground. And it's nice, that the league's evolving, and I think 2 running backs do deserve to be in the All-Pro team this year because they've both been first team All-Pro, because they've just been absolutely amazing, and it is good. They have like the whole tight end day and everything, like, because of how disrespected tight ends have been. Well, that's how running backs have felt with the contracts they've been getting and stuff. So seeing this season, as someone, again, I like also like run game, I like defense. This season has been so entertaining to watch them. For me, because you're seeing some proper old school football, and that's only going to get even more the case in the playoffs, because that's how you win playoff games. Both these teams are going to probably be in the playoffs. I think the Ravens need probably one more win, but we expect them to get one more win and how good their offense has been. But both these teams are red hot, and both these running backs are red hot too. Okay, let's finish off the All-Pro offense with your offensive line. Talk me through your offensive line.
Yeah, so I went with Jordan Mailata, left tackle. I think he's probably been the best O-lineman this season, really. He's kind of returned to his best for the Eagles. You see Saquon peeling out left. He has absolutely no issue. So, give me Jordan Mailata at left tackle. I went on the opposite side. I went Penei Sewell. Right tackle, again, I think the Lions offensive line is the best in football. Them or the Eagles, I think, is really up there. They're certainly in terms of the run game. Next Penei Sewell, I went Kevin Zeitler as well. I think, again, he's having a great season. Chris Lindstrom is having a good season for Falcons. Could have slotted him in there. We've gone. We'll keep the Lions tandem together on that right-hand side. On the left guard, I went Joe Tooney. The Chiefs' offensive line has actually been, you remember back to that Bucs Super Bowl loss a few years ago, where that offensive line, they were banged up heading into it, and Mahomes was running for his life, right? Like, he was pulling off these truly almost incredible, like, most amazing plays you've ever seen. That was the diving one, right? And his receivers were dropping the ball. His offensive linemen were letting kind of Ndamukong Suh and the likes go through like turnstiles. Then they've kind of revamped that O-line over the last few years, and now I think it's surprisingly strong. It's deceptively strong. So I've got I went Joe Tooney and then Creed Humphrey at center. I think he's the best.
Yeah, I think that the Chiefs' offensive lines, because after that game, they went out and got Joe Tooney, got Humphrey, got Trey Smith. Those three are the best three interior linemen in the league. And they have been brilliant this season. I think a couple of those guys could be All-Pro. The problem the Chiefs had on the offensive line this year is the tackle positions. They've not been good. Interior, they're great. The tackle positions, they actually are, in terms of pressure, the worst offensive line in the league. But that's because 67% of those pressures are coming from the tackle positions. So if they can fix that at some point this season, they brought in DJ Humphries to do that. If he can be the guy, then the Chiefs offensive line are going to be really good. Those two guys are brilliant. As is Zeitler again. The Lions and the Eagles again. The three teams with these 5 spots is no surprise, because the Lions and Eagles, the way their offensive lines have been the last decade, is that it's those teams have always been built around those units. It's always been next man up. The Eagles have been training offensive linemen to replace the likes of Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey for years. That's why when you're seeing people like Landon Dickinson and Cam Jurgens come in and just have instant success, Mekhi Becton come in from the Jets, off the streets for cheap money and have success in this offensive line. Those teams are they are probably two of the best offensive coach teams on the offensive line. Obviously, Zeitler coming over from Baltimore, having an excellent season this year. I can't, with any of those guys, I can't disagree because they are, again, certainly the Lions and Eagles, the best overall units, and again, the Chiefs have the best interior unit in the NFL. So, yeah, I think well deserved from all of them.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay.
I think Trey Smith was definitely a guy that I weighed up, but no, we'll give it to the Lions to go next to Saul.
Awesome. Okay, we'll go on to the defense now. Well, for me, it was there's some that were absolute spot on. Like I'm putting them in. Others I've gone a bit out there, so we'll have a go. So my two pass rushers, these aren't a surprise. It's Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. Yeah. Again, there's no surprise there really. No. I mean, Garrett, these two guys are the two favourites for Defensive Player of the Year so far this year. Even though they are both sort of having down years in terms of sacks, they're still having amazing impact in both the pass and the run game. Garrett is PFF's number one pass rusher. He's number one in win percentage on pass snaps. He's got 54 pressures, 10 sacks. He's good against the run as well. He's only missed 2 tackles all season, which is really, really good. He's got 24 run stops, 3 forced fumbles as well. That's tied for second in the league. Myles Garrett just makes plays. Yeah. As does TJ Watt, who, again, he is so Myles Garrett is the overall PFF's number one overall pass rusher. In terms of pass rush grade, TJ Watt has that. He's also number one against the run as well. Top 10 in coverage too. Like, again, because he's used everywhere. TJ Watt is just an absolute freak. Like Garrett, he has 10 sacks. They're both tied for 4th in sacks, but these two guys have way more impact than someone like Trey Hendrickson does in his team, even though he does lead the league in sacks. And Watt is also tied for the lead in QB hits as well, so he's certainly getting to the quarterback, and he is the favourite for Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. It would be his second of the year, second of his career, and I do feel like he has a great chance because he's also forced 5 fumbles this season.
I was going to say he makes plays,
so many plays. When you're punching the ball up 5 times, on top of 10 sacks, like that's. There's no wonder why he's such a big favourite, because he just makes plays wherever he is, and he makes the other guys around him better as well. And that Steelers defensive line is the best in the league in my opinion. I've got another guy from that unit in this team, because no one wants to play the Steelers, especially in Pittsburgh. Like it's why, even with the offenses over the years, well, they've not had the best offenses, why they've won so many games, it's why they've been in so many games. Now you're seeing them with a good offense. Well, look how good the Steelers are now. It's why maybe. Again, they've got a chance at the 1 seed in the AFC now, which is crazy. We wouldn't have thought that going into the season at all.
No, I think just following on from that, I don't think any team in the league has quite this factor that they could score a touchdown on defense like the Steelers do. Like the Steelers feel like that can happen. Mm-hmm. It feels like TJ Watt or any of those guys, like Nick Herbig or Alex Highsmith, injuries and stuff, but any of those guys can make a play and change the game, and that feels like it can happen on any snap, any given snap. So I think the Steelers have this fear factor in them, and TJ Watt embodies that. So yeah,
again, he has been the best defensive player of the year the last five years. As a whole, he just. Again, he is probably the hardest player to stop on the defensive line, I think, because he can do so many things. He totally deserves to be Defensive Player of the Year and in my All-Pro team. Okay, on the interior, I got 2 guys who've had great seasons. We'll stick with Pittsburgh with Cam Hayward. He's having, again, him, Watt, Highsmith, again, he had got injured, but like everyone's been so good on that Steelers defensive line this year. Yeah, Hayward 8 sacks, 43 pressures. He's actually got more pressures than TJ Watt, which is crazy from the interior of the defensive line. Second in tackles with 36. in defensive lineman. He's also missed just 2 all season again. So again, he's a guy who, the Steelers never miss a tackle. Does so well disciplined. He has 33 run stops as well, second in the league at stopping the run as well. Again, I think for me, he is the best defensive tackle in the league right now. He's having an outstanding season. PFF have him number 2 in pass rush grade, number 3 in run defense. If you're top 3 in both pass and run defense, then you're a very, very good player. And and again, that's just why they all make each other better. And the Steelers offense, so defensive line have been so good this season. The other guy I've gone for is on a terrible team, but he's having an amazing season, and that's Dexter Lawrence. He leads all interior linemen with 10 sacks. So again, he's got the same amount of sacks as Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. He's also got 10 sacks, but he's also the number 1 guy against the run as well, according to PFF. So again, he's great at everything. I'm shocked that, because they did the same thing earlier in the week. I was reading through it. I was shocked that he wasn't in their team because, again, number 1 against the run, number 5 for PFF against the pass. They went for Chris Jones instead because Chris Jones is brilliant. But I feel like, especially for making the rest of, without Dexter Lawrence, I really worry how bad the Giants would have been this season. I really do, and I feel like that's why you go for him. He's probably the only player. Yeah, he's the only player in New York that's having a stellar season when the 2 teams in New York are as dysfunctional. I mean, I think both those guys are brilliant, and I feel sorry for Chris Jones. He's had a good season too, but these 2 guys are just the top of the stat sheet of everything. Yeah.
For sure. I think as well, like Chris Jones is the type of player that he embodies the kind of play at a decent level through the regular season, but then become the, kind of save it all in the tank almost for the playoffs. I think he's much more switching on when it kind of matters, when it truly matters, I guess. Where I think Dexter Lawrence deserves his spot. I think he's had a fantastic season, like you said. Shame that he suffered the injury to end it, but I mean the Giants are toast. So revamp him again next season. He's been amazing. He was amazing.
Exactly. It's like, he's not going to play again this year, and he's still making my team. He's played enough games I feel like to be with only a few left. Like,
no, I get it.
Yeah, I want to see how, if he does win anything. Like, I really do. Okay, we'll go over to linebacker now. Zach Bourne for me. I was looking at the numbers. Honestly, this dude is having a freak of a season. He really is for the Eagles. Vic Fangio's defense is just getting better and better each week, as Vic Fangio defenses normally do, and he's having a season for the ages. He's tied for the league in leading the league in run stops and forced fumbles again. So he's up there. He's having one hell of a season at stopping the run and pushing the ball out of running backs, which is the main goal of a linebacker. But not only is he doing that, also he's having a great year in coverage as well. He's allowing a 79.9 passer rating for opposing quarterbacks when in coverage. That's the second best among all linebackers as well. So he's leading the league in run stops, forced fumbles, and second in the league in passer rating in coverage. And that's despite he's been targeted 50 times, which again is a lot over the middle of the field, and he's allowing just 7 yards per reception, so again stopping first downs. That's the 3rd best number in the league. He has an interception on the year as well as 2 pass breakups as well. For me, when I was looking at this list yesterday, he was like the first name. He's having such a good season, and this Eagles defense is they're the worst defense in the league last year. They go out and get players like him and Cooper Dean and Quinion Mitchell as well, who are having great seasons as rookies. And suddenly, again, this Eagles defense for me is probably the top 3, maybe even the best defense in football right now.
Yeah, it's up there for sure. I mean, even when you don't look at the stats for Zach Bourne, he stands out when you just watch the Eagles play. He just flies around the field. He's one of the most fun defensive players, I think, just to watch in the league at the moment. He's everywhere. If you've got a linebacker, if there's young linebackers watching, that's kind of, obviously you want to follow the likes of, Fred Warner and stuff who've been there and done it for a lot longer. But Zach Bourne he's playing the game like you would want, if you're a defensive coordinator, you would want your linebacker to play the game. I've absolutely no qualms with that. I think he's been certainly the most impactful linebacker this season.
Yeah, my other guy may be a bit of a surprise. I've passed over Fred Warner. Instead, I've gone for Bobby Wagner instead. It's a hard choice between these 2 guys, a few weeks ago I would have had Fred Warner, but he's hurt right now. He's not playing the same level as he was at the start of the season. He's missing some tackles. So make I think too many mistakes to be an All-Pro right now, whereas Wagner's just been consistent all season. Although Warner at the start of the year, he had a sort of great start to the season, a really, really good start to the season. It was hard to pass over him, but I've gone with Bo Wagner because he doesn't miss a tackle. He's only missed more than 10 twice in his 13-year career. Like that's incredible. The amount of tackles that linebackers are asked to make, and I don't think he's going to miss 10 this year. So he's a 2012 draft class. He's 34 years old. And still one of the best at his position. That is just remarkable stuff. They're using him in different ways as well. They're asking him to rush the passer. He has 17 pressures this season. He's got 3 sacks as well. He's only missed 6% of his tackles. That's one of the best numbers in the league. PFF have him rated highly in most things too. They're number 3 linebacker overall, number 2 against the run. Like Bo Wagner has still got it. And I feel like on a Washington defense that hasn't been that great. He has been obviously working with Dan Quinn, who worked with in Seattle all those years ago. He's having again one of his best seasons at the age of 34. So I couldn't not put him in this list.
No, I love that. I think he really embodies that Washington defense as well. He's kind of emerged as the heart of it, which is funny because he's obviously so associated with Seattle. But I think he's having you're right. I mean, he's having a great season. Washington having a good season. Even with the defense, maybe I think they started all right. I think they've almost mirroring kind of Jaden Daniels, slowing down a little bit. But no, Bobby Wagner is fantastic. It's good to give him his kudos in this season, age 34.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, on to the secondary now. My first player at corner is Pat Surtain. Second, he's having such a good season. Like Bourne again for me, I didn't even have it just blows you away looking at these numbers. Like for me, he's by far the best corner in the league this year. He is PFF's number 1 corner. He's the best in coverage and at tackling. In fact, he is the only corner who's played at least 50% of the snaps this year to have not missed a single tackle. He's been so good in that aspect. It's crazy, and that's often for a corner. The work in the run game goes unnoticed, but that is so crucial, especially when teams run outside. There's lots of teams in this league that run outside zone. He's been brilliant, as well as that. Obviously, in coverage, has been the best corner in the league as well. 3 interceptions, including a pick 6, just a 61.6 passer rating when faced. He's only allowed 1 touchdown all year, and his longest completion as well is just 23 yards, which again is one of the lowest in the league as well because he does not get beat deep. This Broncos defense is amazing, and a big factor of that is Pat Surtain, who they're going to have to pay. He's going to get big money, really, really big money, but he deserves it because he's been so good. And then sticking on that theme, I've gone for another young DB. I've gone for Derek Stingley as my other corner, which I think may be a bit of a surprise because there are other guys that have been playing very well, but for me, with how good Surtain's been, the next guy is always going to have a bit of a drop off. But there's so many guys I could have picked from. Marlon Humphrey, Tareeb Still for the Chargers as a rookie for me is in serious consideration for all pros. They both play in the same scheme as Stingley as well. This sort of, for me, they're both having individual seasons too, especially Still as a rookie for the Chargers. As I said, Denzel Ward as well, he has a crap ton of pass breakups, but I won't have Derek Stingley because he has the best passer rating against at just 46.4. He's given up again just 1 touchdown. He's picked up a quarterback 3 times, same as Surtain. He's only been penalised once as well compared to Surtain, who's been penalised 9 times. So again, he's playing clean football. I don't know why quarterbacks are throwing at him because they are. He's been targeted 70 times, which is a lot more than Surtain's been targeted. And he's got, like I said, 46 pass rating when targeting him. He's made plays on a lot of those balls as well. He's got 10 pass breakups as well as the 3 interceptions. And again, he also has the best completion percentage against as well. So stop throwing at Derek Stingley because he's having one hell of a season, all right? And the numbers show it because, these 2 guys for me have been the 2 best corners in the league this season.
No, I like that. 2 good picks. There's been a lot of noise for Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, but I think, no, I like that. I think Derek Stingley's definitely flown under the radar. We've seen Pat Surtain kind of be crowned as the best in the game. He is the best in the game, to clarify, but we've seen everyone kind of give him his flowers. I think Derek Stingley, like you said, whenever I watch the Texans, I feel like Derek Stingley makes a play. So I don't know what I mean, obviously you want your cornerback to defend more, but like what more do you want from your cornerback? If you're watching, every time you watch them, you feel like they make a great play. So I think Derek Stingley has definitely stuck out, and so those are two good picks in my book.
Okay, finish off with the safeties. I have 3 safeties because it's 2024 is the year for safeties and running backs.
Yeah.
For years, those two have been the 2 most undervalued positions, obviously alongside like kickers and special teamers. These are the 2 of the lowest paid positions on average. And both positions are having like the best years I can remember for running backs and safeties. Funnily enough, they're actually both positions that the Giants decided to look over. Letting both Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney go. Both in my obviously in our all pro team. And I think for me, McKinney's been great. He's just so good at everything. He's good against a run when asked. He rarely misses a tackle again. He doesn't allow deep completions. He gets his hand on the football. 7 interceptions, a further 2 pass breakups before yesterday's game. Yeah. Not allowed a single touchdown all year either before yesterday. He's PFF's number 2 safety, number 2 in coverage. And he had a run to start the season. He has allowed a little bit. He's a little bit, but he's still out of more than all pro level. But to start the season, in 5 of the first 9 games, he had no receptions, and in the other 4, he just had of the 7 combined, he just had 7 across those games, and 4 of those were in 1 game. So he's had 8 games with 1 reception or fewer, which is just just crazy. Xavier McKinney's been brilliant. And the other 2 guys we also saw last night, they are Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. So all 3 of my safeties come from last night's game. Obviously sticking in the NFC North. Kirby Joseph and Branch, for me, they are like the perfect duo because they complement each other so well. Joseph is PFF's number 1 highest graded safety this year. He has 7 interceptions like McKinney. Again, one of those being a pick 6 in the last time these 2 teams played. He also has only allowed 1 touchdown in a year. Again, in fact, actually one in the last 2 years is Kirby Joseph. And again, only a 54.5% completion percentage, the 2 missed tackles as well, pass rating against in the 50s again, like McKinney. Like these 2 guys have been sitting back there as safety. They've just been so good. They've not been beat deep. And his partnership with Brian Branch is what makes him better. They make each other better. For me, again, and that's because Brian Branch is my 50B. They both make it into this all-pro team because Joseph is a deep safety, make sure that they don't get beat over the top, and then Branch to do it all free safety. He just lines up everywhere. He's lined up at safety, in the box, in the slot. He's lined up in the line of scrimmage as well, and he just causes absolute havoc. 4 interceptions, 8 more pass breakups. He leads the league in quarterback hits from a safety with 4. He has 24 run stops as well, which is in the top 10. 3rd best pass rating allowed as well, just 40.3. Is good in both coverage and defending the run. For me, like Branch and Joseph, they both deserve to be in that, as did McKinney. So look, this team is just showing how the league has evolved. We've got 2 safeties, 2 running backs and 3 safeties in an all-pro team, which is really fun. And I really enjoyed putting this team together. That was fun.
That was good. It was good. Good exercise to get me ready for the pod. Thanks for that.
Awesome. I really enjoyed it. As we sort of talked through guys who just missed out on offense. A few on defense, as I mentioned, like Trey Hendrickson, Nick Bonito for the Broncos had a great season as well. It's gone very under the radar. Daniel Hunter, Will Anderson, Jared Verse at pass rusher. Again, all those guys have had great seasons. I mentioned Chris Jones. Also, you could put Leonard Williams in there, Calais Campbell, and then Zach Sealer as well, and Zach Allen for the Broncos. They've all had brilliant seasons, especially the last 3 when you didn't expect those guys to be at that level. We mentioned Fred Warner at linebacker. Also, you could put Devin Lloyd. He's probably the only good player on the Jags defense as well as their line. He's having a great season, which again is just not being talked about. Bobby Okereke as well. Again, him and Lawrence, the only 2 players that have had any impact for the Giants this year, but because they're on defense so much, they're just absolutely stat padding. And then, in the secondary, we mentioned DeGene and Quinion Mitchell. Again, they're very close for me. And at safety, Carl Hamilton, Brandon Jones, Taylor Rapp also deserved credit as well. But for me, I couldn't pass up these guys. And again, a lot of those guys will be second team All Pro. I'd be shocked if 90% of them aren't nominated to the Pro Bowl Like, I think that's for me. Obviously, when you have like sort of 6 picks for each position for the Pro Bowl, they're all going to get votes. And again, the league is just such a talent pool right now, especially at positions that haven't been the case recently. So it's just nice to see an evolution in the league. Okay, should we go on to picking the games?
Let's do it.
Okay, right. This slate's an interesting one. As I mentioned earlier, it's the last one before we have every team playing the rest of the season. It's the last week with bye weeks, and we've got one hell of a sort of weird week, especially with so many teams that have been so good this season, like the Ravens, like Baltimore, Washington, for example. They're all on byes this week. The Broncos as well. So there are key games, but not so much big hitters playing the rest of the week. They got a lot of division games in there as well. And we'll start with a division game in the AFC East, where the New York Jets travel to Miami to play the Dolphins. The Dolphins, who still have a chance of getting in the playoffs this season, although they can probably only afford to maybe lose one game, and even then they've still got a 50% chance of getting in at 9-8. So the Dolphins really need to win out, and they need to win here. They're favored by 6.5 points against the Jets. Now, an interesting stat here: Tua Tagovailoa is undefeated against the Jets. I think it's 7-0. So we'll see how that fares. I do think the Dolphins are going to win the game, but I do think the last couple of Dolphins-Jets games have been really close. I don't know if the Dolphins are going to win by a touchdown. So give me the Jets within 6, but I think the Dolphins win this game.
Yeah. I think the Dolphins win. I think they cover as well. Like they win by over a touchdown. I think the Jets are, man, I don't even know. I think it's got to be the most disappointing. I think it's up there with the most disappointing seasons by any team of all time. Like, genuinely.
Well, 2 seasons as well after last year.
Yeah, well, last year they had the injury, right? So they could at least throw their hat on that. This, I mean, I guess they could still throw their hat on the injury and just say like Rodgers is not the quarterback he was, but it's been so bad and so demoralizing for certainly the Jets fans I know. It's been pretty tough. So I think they're going to be pretty checked out. I mean, I don't know. I think it could. Yeah, you're right. It could get played close, but I think the Dolphins will want to hit back and prove that they're not out of the race, because that loss to the Packers really hurt their playoff standings. Because I think in my opinion, I think you need double-digit wins really to get through. Obviously, you could still sneak through at 9-8, but like you said, right, 50%. To safely assume you're going to make playoffs, you got to hit double-digit wins. That loss to the Packers hurt, so they have to win out. I think they'll win by more than a touchdown on Sunday.
There we are. Okay, we'll go over to the NFC. 2 teams that are in the NFC playoff picture, the Vikings and the Falcons. The Falcons just about hanging on after their last couple of weeks, but they are still just about leading the NFC South. They go to Minnesota, where the Vikings are 5.5 point favourites. So again, a similar spread. This is such a big game for the Falcons. Yeah. Because of how poor they have been recently. That a few weeks ago they had not only a couple of game advantage over Tampa Bay, they also had the fact that they beat them twice as well. So they had an extra game over Tampa Bay. That now is because they're on the same record at 6-6. That's now half a game. The gap has narrowed. Kirk Cousins has been one of the worst quarterbacks in football the last few weeks. Despite having the best offensive line in terms of pressure, which is the scary thing. And he's gone from leading the league in game-winning drives to throwing 4 interceptions with chances to win the game last week, because their defense played so well against the Chargers. Yeah. Obviously, revenge game, going to Minnesota for Kirk. This is a big storyline this week. I don't feel like it's going to end very well for him, because I just feel like he's not the same guy. The injury, he's way less mobile. He can't move, and I think it's affecting his decision making as well. And going up against a defense in Minnesota that likes to put pressure on the quarterback, that can confuse quarterbacks, that can take the ball away. I feel like this is a recipe for a disaster for the Falcons. So I'm going to pick the Vikings to cover the 5.5 point spread.
Yeah. I like that. I think for me, I think Kirk Cousins, man, he's not been playing. He's not been playing well. I think, Brian Flores is going to send a bunch of things. The Vikings have been playing some close games though recently. I think I'll go Vikings, but I think it'll be inside the 5.5.
Really? Wow. Yeah, I mean, again, it has been close, but they win. Yeah, they will win the game with him. But
Yeah.
I can see where you're coming. I just feel like the Falcons are just checked out now. I think
No, I
I think it is tight. If they lose this game, it's time for Michael Penix. That's the way it is.
For sure. Yeah. It's ironic that we've kind of reached the point where Kirk Cousins is kind of playing for his now career against the Vikings. Man, the NFL is it's a narrative machine. I tell you that.
Okay, the next game is not so great, where the 4-8 Saints go to the 2-10 Giants. The Saints are a 5.5-point favourites on the road, which shows
that game's so bad it should be in Germany.
Yeah, exactly. It shows how bad, obviously going to New York and being 5.5-point favourites shows how bad the Giants have been this year. Yeah. Again, missing players like Dexter Lawrence. And the Saints have had a little bit of a renaissance recently since Dennis Allen was fired. Darren Rizzi came over. They're getting good offense again. Marcus Valdes-Scantling's been a big factor. Missing Taysom Hill is a big loss for them because again the offense just flowed through him, which is crazy because he's not really a position player, but he is their most important player on offense. But I feel like even without Taysom Hill, they'll still be able to put enough offense up against this Giants team to win by 5.5 points. I just put it this way: the Saints are frisky, the Giants are just bad. Yeah,
agreed. I think the Saints will. I think the Saints will win. I think they'll cover. I think the Saints are. I don't think the Saints are like that good. I mean, that we've seen from their record, but I also don't think they're as bad as their record. Really suggests. I think they've been hit by a few injuries and stuff like that. So I think they'll win and they'll cover. As you say, the Giants are not good.
Yeah. Okay, we'll stick in the NFC. We'll go again. This is another game between an NFC South team and an NFC East team. The Eagles host the Panthers. The Eagles are 12.5-point favourites against the Panthers. A absolutely humongous spread. Now, I think they win this game, but they get a slow start in most games, and the Panthers and Bryce Young have been playing really well recently.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles win, but do they win by 2 touchdowns? I don't think so. So I'm going to pick the Panthers to come within 12.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna follow you on that. I'm surprised it's that big. I think the Panthers have played pretty well. I mean, they kept the Chiefs to within 3 the other day. So you're right. We're seeing a Bryce Young sort of renaissance, I guess. I mean, it's now looking like he really is not the problem, which really is what the Panthers probably should have hoped for.
Their offensive line's got a lot better. Yeah. And they're getting, Adam Thielen's come back healthy, and he's having a good sort of second half of the season as well. They've had rookie players coming back. They've had injuries with Jatavian Sanders and Jonathan Brooks as well, but both of these guys have been in and out in the lineup recently as well. This Panthers team are going to get better, and Bryce is getting better. So I think now. And also, they've won games now. They're not going to be in a position to get a quarterback, so I feel like Bryce will be the quarterback next year. When I don't think we'll be saying that when he was benched earlier in the season. Let's just say that.
No, but it's nice to see, and I think he's playing with a renewed confidence as well. He really looks more poised. Most of that will probably come from his improved offensive line, but he definitely is playing with a different kind of swagger, if you want to look at it like that. So I think. Yeah, I think Eagles win, and they probably win somewhat comfortably. But I think the Panthers will they'll keep it within that. That's a tough line for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll go over to a really big division game for one team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They host their big rivals, the Cleveland Browns, who of course beat them in the snow in Cleveland about 2 weeks ago. Because of that, with the Ravens on a bye, if the Steelers win here, then they open up an advantage now in the AFC North. They are favoured by 6.5 points at home in Pittsburgh. I think they win, but again, AFC North games are close. They always are. They always come down to a last second field goal. I feel like the Browns will keep it within 6.5. Within 6. I think Steelers win, but I don't think they blow out the Browns by any means.
Yeah, totally agreed. The Jameis Winston Browns are erratic. It's Jameis Winston, but they're explosive and they're putting points on the board. They're putting yards up on the box score. So I think it'll be a close game. If it's not a 6.5 point, if it's not a within 6 point game, it'll be because of a late, like what we saw in the Broncos game. Winston throwing a pick 6 right at the end. It'll be something like that that'll make it not a 6 point game if it isn't. So I'm gonna follow you. I think Steelers win, but I think it's within the spread.
Yeah, I went 12-4 last week of the 16 games. It would have been 13-3 if it wasn't for Jameis Winston. So I would have had a great week last week. But no,
it's the full Jameis experience.
Yeah, again, the full. I got a friend who's just becoming an NFL fan, and he's chosen to support the Browns. And I said to him, like, "This is the Jameis experience. Like, you should have been there when he had 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, like that. Like, that is." Yeah, that's just the Jameis experience. We'll go over from Jameis's new team, the Browns, to his former team, the Bucks. They host the Raiders. Again, the Bucks just need to keep winning to win the NFC South to get in the playoff team. I mean, selfishly, because they're way more entertaining than the Falcons, I want the Bucks in the playoffs. I really need, and they host the Raiders. The Raiders come in cross country, early window, which again, cross country early window. That's a slog for the team. So there's no wonder the Bucks are favored by 7.5 points. Yeah, it is tough, but again, West Coast team going pretty much as far east as you can in Florida. Like,
it's a must-win game for the Bucks as well.
For Bucks, I feel like I think they'll win anyway. But again, I'm going to pick them to win by 8, just because I feel like they are much better than the Raiders, despite all their injuries.
Agreed. Although the Raiders have a weird propensity to just randomly play a team really close, just out of nowhere.
Well, yeah. The Raiders, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Dolphins as well. They played them close.
It is so weird. They're kind of like a trap team that also seem to lose all the time. So I think I'm with you there. I'm with you. I like the Bucks, and again, I also have a relentless bias to Baker Mayfield. Man, what an absolute dog! It's so great to see his kind of renaissance. So yeah, I'm a big Bucks fan. So we'll take them, and I'd take them to cover.
Awesome. Final game of the early window sees the Titans host the Jags. 3-9 AFC South team against a 2-10 AFC South team. Again, that's a great game this week. The Titans are favored by 4 points. Obviously, after the hit last week, it will be Mac Jones, the quarterback for the Jags. Will Levis has had up and down moments the last couple of games. He had a very good game against the Texans. I just feel like the quarterback who can produce the most explosive plays is Levis. The better defense is the Titans. Yeah. I feel like that'd be enough for the Titans to not only win, but again, cover the 3.5 point spread.
Yeah, totally agree. Don't have any much more to say on that.
Again, that game was just hard to think about what to say about that one. No, the next game is a very interesting game. The late window this week is very good, and it starts in Arizona where they host the Seahawks. The NFC West is the closest division in football. Any one of those 4 teams, I mean, maybe not the Niners because they are 2 games back in fact, 2.5 games back on Seattle, but this division race is between 3 teams. The Seahawks took the lead of the NFC West by beating the Cardinals a few weeks ago. They now go into Arizona where the Cardinals are favored by 4 points. The Cardinals probably should have won that game. That Kyler Murray pick 6 to Kobe Bryant was the killer. In Arizona, I feel like they've done well against most. They've beaten the Niners, they've beaten the Rams this year. The Cardinals are a very well coached team that win division games. I feel like they're going to get their revenge over Seattle and equal the series. Both teams go to 7-6, and I think they're going to cover the 3.5 point spread as well.
Yeah, I like that. I'll say the same, except I'll say the Cardinals win, but I think it's a field goal. I think it'll be a tight.
The division games are always close. I feel like I trust Kyler Murray more than Geno Smith. He leads the league in interceptions at the minute, and I feel like Geno's playing very well. The run game's gone. Kenneth Walker's not had the same effect the last couple of weeks, so it's been all Geno. I feel like against a defense that in Arizona that's kind of frisky, I feel like that we may see a few turnovers, and I feel like the Cardinals will win for that reason as well as Kyler Murray. But I'm really looking forward to watching that game. Some of the next game, which again you wouldn't really say between a 5-7 team and a 4-8 team, but both the Niners and the Bears. Well, one, they're 2 of the most historic franchises in the league, and this rivalry is massive. But also, like, both these teams have great players, both in weird spots as well. Obviously, the Bears could have a winning record. They've lost so many one-score games. First came without after firing Matt Eberflus as well. So Thomas Brown's interim head coach first game. Obviously, normally there is an interim head coach bounce. They go into San Fran as 3.5 point underdogs. I don't know if they win the game or not, but I certainly think it'll be close. I'm going to pick Chicago within 3. I don't trust this Niners team. Caleb, again, in sort of moments, has looked really good the last couple of weeks. And I don't know who wins, and I just feel like Chicago have a chance. Interim head coach bounce. I'm not confident, but give me Chicago within 3.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. You could really see this going in a lot of different directions. I think that's the unknown of Thomas Brown, who, by the way, has had the craziest kind of rise in the last month. Like, kind of
wasn't even in the building. Yeah,
exactly. Kind of went from really background peripheral figure to now head coach of the Chicago Bears. Fair enough. We all dream of that fast track. Yeah, I don't know. I think but the really hopeful, or I guess optimistic part of me wants to say the Browns are going to go, the Bears are going to go there, and Caleb's going to ball out, and they're going to totally ride this interim bounce. It's weird because it's the 49ers defensive line has obviously been kind of beaten up a little bit, but it's still got Nick Bosa, and it still should really toy with that Bears O-line. But the 49ers are pretty checked out at this point. Like, they're out. They're kind of out of the playoff race, I think, at this point.
We saw that in the snow last week.
Yeah. Yeah. You screw it. Give me the Bears. Let's go.
Awesome. I don't know how I wasn't even trying to convince you there. I just okay. For me, probably the game of the late window, the Rams host the Bills. Again, big game for both teams. The Rams, if they win this one, they keep in touch with Seattle and Arizona. Yeah. You know, the way it could be, because they beat the Seahawks, they could jump the Seattle into second place, and Seattle could go from first to third. It's just how close that division is. The Rams host the Bills. The Bills are 4.5-point favorites on the road. Obviously, Buffalo looked brilliant the last couple of weeks. They've dominated teams in their run game. The defense is playing a lot better now. Matt Milano is coming back for Buffalo as well. Micah Hyde's just re-signed with this practice squad as well, so we'll see if he's elevated or something. But obviously, someone who knows that defense well. Yeah. The Bills in big games, I worry about still. I can't lie. That's always been their issue. Again, in games where you've got a tougher opponent, they've lost to the Texans quite convincingly. They've lost to the Ravens quite convincingly. And again, the Chiefs aren't the Chiefs of old. So again, but I feel like they win. But I just feel like 4.5 points away favourite. I feel I'm going to pick the Rams to come within 4. I don't know who wins this game, to be honest with you. I like the Rams. They need it. Yeah. Stafford needs a game. Kupp and Nakua back now. Kyron Williams is healthier now as well. Their offensive line's healthier. They're going to need it against this Buffalo front. I feel like this is going to be a really entertaining game. I don't know who wins, and because of that, I'm just going to pick home underdogs because that's the safest thing to do.
Yeah. I think I'll go. So you say it was Bills in 4.5.
Bills 4.5-point favorite.
Yeah, it's tough. I was really high on the Rams going into the season. I'm still high on them. I just think, I don't know. They have to catch fire kind of now, right? So,
it's for Buffalo. Obviously, they need a win to keep in touch with Kansas City, because obviously they beat them. They're only half a game back. So if the Chiefs slip up, then Buffalo are the 1 seed. But equally for the Rams, they need to win this game because they've got a realistic shot at the division as well. So this game is going to be really good.
I think I'll go Bills to win, but not cover. I think it'll be close. We'll probably see a game-winning drive by Allen. We'll go with that. There'll be another MVP highlight.
Yeah, exactly. And again, if the Chiefs lose on Sunday Night Football the next game, then he probably will take the MVP race lead. The Chiefs host their division rival Chargers. 11-1 Chiefs against the 8-4 Chargers. The Chiefs are favored by 4.5 points. Now, this one's tough because it's a division game. I feel like the Chiefs don't really beat teams by big spreads. They win every game close.
Yeah.
I just feel like I don't know. I feel like if they can take away Ladd McConkey, this Chiefs team win by. But if they can't erase Ladd McConkey, then this game will be interesting. It'll be fun to watch. Normally, I wouldn't.
It's going to be a really old school kind of game. I think it's going to be surprisingly
Andy
old
Reid, Jim Harbaugh, like this is just what the NFL wants. It's going to be one of the most viewed games all season.
The Chargers are going to run the ball hard.
Yeah,
the defense is obviously playing at a fantastic level. The Chiefs' offense is obviously stuttering. Man, I think it's going to be a tense game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Chiefs win by a field goal.
Yeah, so they wouldn't cover the spread then.
No.
So
I want to pick the Chargers because I'm all about everything they've done this season. But look, I think the Chiefs know how to win close games, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm. You can tell that I'm hurt, and I will never not pick the Chiefs in close games.
Exactly. I'm gonna pick the Chiefs to cover the 4.5 point spread. Again, that is tough because they don't beat teams by more than the score normally, and I think again 5 points is quite a big margin. But it's Andy Reid off a sort of mini bye, having played last Friday, so that's a big factor as well. 2 extra days of preparation. Andy Reid off for a bye, for example, has a very 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 good record. I just feel like this is a game where the Chiefs turn up, they win this game. This is the Kansas City Chiefs. Need to keep in touch, need to keep hold of the 1 seed. The big game that the Chiefs rarely lose. And it being an Arrowhead, I think will give them a couple more points, and it will push them to a 5-point victory.
Nice.
Okay, Monday Night Football. This game not quite as glamorous, but 2 teams that are frisky. I feel like they can put up so many points. Or at least have some sort of a decent game. Cooper Rush's Dallas Cowboys host Joe Burrow's Bengals. The Cowboys, again, they've been underdogs so many times at Jerry World. It's the same this week. They're 5.5 point underdogs at home against a 4-8 team. That just shows again what this Dallas Cowboys season has been. I'm gonna pick them to come within 5. I don't know if they beat the Bengals or not, but I think this is gonna be an entertaining game. Yeah. For the fact they've got 9 wins between them. I feel like that's the kind of game, the level we're at, where it'll be entertaining. The Bengals can't lose another game. They have to win every single one of their 5 games, and even then at 9-8, they're hoping teams slip up.
Yeah.
I think they win, but I'm going to pick Dallas 2-5 just because I feel like what we've seen from Dallas the last couple of weeks has been quite promising, and Mike McCarthy is coaching for his job right now. So I feel like, so is Zach Taylor, but I feel like this game's going to go hard because of that reason, because both these coaches are on the hot seat, and that normally means it's going to be a close game.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's the Simpsons Bowl. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
The Simpsons animation for it. Oh man, it's such a good Monday Night Football game on paper. If everyone was fully fit and they weren't both almost out the playoff picture at this point. I will go. I think the Bengals will win. I think it won't. I think it will be more than the 5.5.
Wow, there you go.
I think Joe Burrow, that offense, I just don't think Cooper Rush is going to be able to keep up with Joe Burrow, even against, the Bengals defense, which is so bad, season-definingly bad. But I think I can't see Cooper Rush keeping up with Burrow and that offensive machine if they're playing at the level that we've seen them play at, despite their record.
Interesting. Well, that's it. That's the podcast for this week. A big thank you for Andrew for joining me. I will probably get you on at some point in the playoffs, I expect, or something like that. It'd be good to have you on again this season. If people aren't aware of how to get your work and how to read it, whether it's your book or whether it's the articles that you do for the Mirror or the Express, how can people find your stuff?
I mean, there's classic. You can hit me on Twitter or X, I guess is what it's called. Andrew_Gamble. I'm over on Blue Sky as well now. We've transitioned there just to see what's going on. And then, of course, you can always just look up the Mirror US and go that way. And we've got all our NFL and American sports coverage there. It's always growing. It's always getting better. So, yeah, it's a good time.
Awesome. Like I said, mate, a big thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
I will be back next week for our final Power Rankings podcast of the season. We had so much fun putting it together last time, about a month and a half ago. As the season's getting to a real close now, we're going to put together one final big power ranking that I cannot wait to show you next week. I've been Sammy, it's been Andrew, it's been the Full 10 Yards NFL Podcast, and I will see you next time.